I know I said in the last episode I would start this episode by opening up some cores, but I felt like I should accomplish something first, so I decided to begin by taking on Alfonso again. Surely now that we're higher level than he is, we can handle his electric skin, right? Hint, Rage Strike go brr. Honestly, electric skin isn't the only problem when fighting Alfonso, but it's definitely the main one. Before I attempt to fight again, I immediately decided to ignore what I said less than 30 seconds ago and pull blades. All on Rex, I guess, because he's understandably very greedy. We saw him the first episode, he really wanted that money. He deserves rare blades too. The first 4 blades are all Who Cares blades, but the 5th blade is what's really, really, really important.
I am Zenobia. I'll take on the strongest comers.
Meet Zenobia, far and beyond the single most offensive blade we've encountered so far. She loves fighting, and she makes damn well sure we all know she wants to be the strongest. Her skills are oriented to deal as much damage as possible in any situation, whether it be against special enemies or just a horde of nobodies. I immediately give her an amethyst chip, which makes it so her accuracy is increased during the day. A helpful effect of its daytime in-game, since it means fewer attacks missed on a class where every hit counts. Her first skill increases damage against unique monsters and bosses, which is immediately a huge deal since we plan to fight as many of those as possible. Her second skill increases damage against higher level enemies, which is good because I don't plan to overlevel all that much whenever possible, as we've seen by me being underlevel for pretty much every single boss fight so far. Her third skill increases damage for each enemy in the fight, which is helpful in every single fight since every fight has enemies, technically speaking. Her field skills do a lot of overlapping stuff with what we already have, but that's not a huge deal since it just means that we can get some stuff a tiny bit sooner. She has 3 aux core slots, which is how you know Monolith considers her a favorite child, and after turning Rex's infantry vest into a champion belt, I head to Toradoth to make some worthwhile aux cores for Zenobia. I make an outdoor attack up 1 and art stealth 1, as we'll be hitting hard and don't want to be taking aggro too often, though Zenobia's defenses aren't horrible at 15% each. I equip the cores and the Affinity Max Attack 1 I had on Kohana, and then we head to Argentum to fill in another node on Poppy's skill tree by eating some staple foods category pouch items, and another by talking to a couple of different Nopon a bunch of times. While I'm here, I grab some Whisper Quarters for Rex, which give a little bit of special recharge every second, which is extremely helpful for quickly gaining special gauge. We'll see pretty quickly why that's so helpful. Afterwards, I head back to Toradoth to finally grab something that I could have grabbed in Chapter 2 with a bit of grinding, but decided not to for the sake of not making things too easy. With level 2 Nopon Wisdom and Super Strength, you can get a Wood Chip, a core chip not easily obtainable until Chapter 5. This thing gives a ton of auto attack, but I give it to Dromart for a couple specific reasons. Thanks to being a support blade, Dromart has naturally lower aggro gain, which means the increased damage won't affect aggro management too much, plus the higher auto attack actually will improve his healing, which is the main reason. That said, I'm still marginally concerned about the aggro management, so I equip Dromart with the Art Stealth aux core and give Zenobia a Sunlight Eye aux core, or whatever it's called, which pairs nicely with the Amethyst chip effect. Also, if you're wondering where I got that Amethyst chip, I fought a Nomad Rhinon before properly recording to test the audio since I messed with some of the settings between episodes, so I had more balanced audio for personal use while running around seeing if there was anything else to grab in Dormont, plus grabbing a core chip for Aoi, the common ice ball I rarely use in this episode, and also getting an affinity node on Kohana, our water katana that has carried us so far. I think this is going to be the last episode where I specify what blades were what, so for people that might be getting into the series late. So if you haven't seen a previous part and don't know who they are, L plus ratio. I beat up the main driver because I was feeling particularly mean that day, fill in Zenobia's last level 1 skill, and in doing so unlocks Pyra's level 3 of Key Affinity. I could grab Focus level 2 at this point, but I decided not to in favor of fighting Alfonso again. This time, we have a nuke at our side, named Zenobia, with very few clothes for some reason. Anyway, the first few auto attacks may not seem particularly interesting, But this first art should be indicative of what sort of damage we're dealing with. Not even at max affinity and we have 5,000 damage in a single art. That is absurd amounts of damage, but far from the highest number we'll see today. Something you might note about Axe Wretch just from watching this gameplay is that it's quite slow. Most veteran players would say that Axe Wretch is bad and even in some cases unviable, and for some fights, absolutely it would be, yeah. But early game, and with Zenobia specifically, every hit hurts so good that it's still viable. Plus it's the only option Wretch has for a launch until chapter freaking 8. Until we unlock Arch Chaining though, I admit that it's marginally less good than it could be otherwise, but we're just barely on the threshold of it not being too much, it seems. Wait, no, I skipped the line. Until we unlock Arch Chaining though, I admit that it's marginally less good than it otherwise would want to be, especially with this crit recharge art that would just love to contribute to art spamming. The high damage hits can be scary though, as that's a lot of aggro to be grabbing off Tora, but we're just barely on the threshold of it not being too much, it seems. Plus I can swap over to Pyro if I ever feel my team needs a breather. Even with our not so terrible defenses though, Electric Skin still hurts a lot. But we can hold on through the power of evasion and Ultra Nia's newfound healing power with the wood chip. However, there's another problematic move here. Gastric Acid inflicts a debuff exclusive to Xenoblade 2. Stench will cause your blade to stand at the far end of this affinity line range, and one wrong movement could cause you to lose your link, which is a problem because keeping that affinity line up allows the blade to assist their driver through the use of blade arts, the passives you might occasionally see get used that help out in battle a little bit. Being out of range for too long will also cause your affinity to drop, which technically can be a good thing under the right application, say an affinity max barrier since you can drop affinity and then regain max affinity for another barrier, but it's still rarely going to be an ideal situation. If you have an AC system reset, I highly recommend equipping it to Poppy for this UM, as there's a chance that Poppy will remove the Stench debuff before losing an affinity connection. Get sprayed with Axe, just as your newly built robot to remove it. Axe is in the spray, not the weapon. I was confused just reading it now, and now I realize why. Simple as. Anyway, not much happens until Alfonso becomes enraged, which always signals the incoming Rage Strike attack, ready to eat our party gauge and also possibly everyone's soul if it's Electric Skin. I luck out and only lose all my party gauge to a 1000 damage Gastric Acid. Way better than a party wipe in my opinion. I keep hoping to get a little lucky with a potential topple into a Volcano Blade combo, but unfortunately Nia doesn't seem to have much luck on her side, so I have to deal without. It also means I get hit with another hefty Electric Skin, which is not exactly ideal. For the most part, it actually seems like we might be able to pull off the fight, albeit just barely. Nia's healing and our damage seem to be doing pretty well. However, Electric Skin is still a hell of a lot to deal with, and eventually it overwhelms Nia, which means no more good source of healing, and despite my best efforts, Wretch falls while Alfonso stands, mocking me with his remaining 3% health bar. Bastard. Drummer's Wild War Skill hits level 3, and while filling in that, I go ahead and check Poppy Swap to see if anything is a little off. I changed the Challenger special enhancers for the Frontal Force enhancers since Alfonso is lower level than us, and then I create an Arts Aggro boost to temporarily replace damage heal. Both are decently helpful, but Arts Aggro boost will let Tora manage aggro a little better now against the high stats of Drumart and the high damage of Zenobia. I do the fight again and get unlucky with a taste of Rage Strike Electric Skin. Again. Do the fight again, wipe against a non-Rage Strike Electric Skin, and at this point I decide Zenobia just won't be cutting it for this particular fight. I equip Aoi, hoping that the additional healing will help us survive against the Electric Skins, and I'll say this right now. If that's what you want, just swap to Nia. It's easier, and Retz is better at other stuff. But I was still on my Aoi high of thinking she would be a decent addition to the team for a little bit, but nowadays I'm kinda hoping I get something just a mite bit more helpful in the future. Anyway, do the fight again, but I wipe just as easily. I'm losing a lot, but I'm equally as stubborn, so I equip Outdoors Attack Up and Infinity Max Attack to Kohana and do the fight once again, and this time we make it to the Rage Strike again, which thankfully straight up misses. The RNG is really real. Honestly, every Electric Skin is still extremely scary, even if Rex himself isn't really in much danger of dying. Tora is below half for quite a while, even straight up dying eventually to an electric skin, but we just revive him afterwards. Rex has aggro now, which means fewer attacks are landing outside of electric skin, but that one move carries Alfonso anyway, much like Johanna with this entire playthrough. A couple minutes pass in the fight and now Nia dies, but again I just revive her and nothing happened. Normally a death signals the beginning of the fight losing, but we're getting to the point where one death isn't necessarily the end of the world, so we managed to survive long enough to take down Alfonso. A lucky fight to some extent, but since Johanna was involved, of course I won. And yes, I did pop off after beating this guy. I pull a couple more blades, but neither are particularly interesting, and I'll state right now, what I said in that last episode was a lie. There will never be a time where I manage to tell myself not to pull more blades. After the pulls, I return to Garfont, but not to continue the story. Oh no. That'll be a bit yet at this point. I want to grab some tea for Pyra to unlock her level 2 focus skill, which I can then use to grab a few chests back in Gormott. The first chest is the one near where we fought Morag and Bridget a couple episodes ago, which is probably the most important chest as it contains a magnet chip, which I would consider to be the upgrade of the amethyst chip type of core chip, in that it has special effects that vary from blade to blade, though in the case of the magnet chip, I would say that the three best contenders for the weapon are Rock, Poppy, and any twin rings you might have, though I mainly mean any on Nia. I give it to Rock though, as the extra 50 strength is pretty neat, though if I hadn't used the wood chip, it probably would have gone to Dromark. The next place we head to is inside the battleship, where we can find a vent that required level 2 super strength and focus to break down, and at the end of the path here there is a chest with a rare core and a jamming 2 arch core, both of which are admittedly not terrible, though jamming 2 is situational. From here I move to Argentum, collecting a container with a common core and insect hunter, watching a bidding war happen, likely all of which are betting way overpriced I'm sure. We get another chest containing a singular core crystal, a container with an Arts Aggro Boost 2, and most importantly, a chest on top of Noodler's Delight that gives us 2 core crystals and a coil chip that I immediately equip to Poppy. This is an extremely good block rate to have this early on, plus it nearly doubles Poppy's auto attack, which should let her keep aggro over Zenobia in the future. Before leaving Argentum, I break into Banna's bedroom and grab a chest with a relatively useless block rate up 2 core, as well as getting a look at what sort of skills I'll need in the future to take care of the rest of that criminal scum's precious belongings. I head back to Torgoth to do a bunch of salvaging, as I wanted to unlock some affinity nodes, primarily being Poppy's emergency guard skill. Not a great skill, but never hurts. We have 7 arch cores, so I pull 4 on Rex that I don't really care about, and 3 on Nia, which at least one was pretty solid, but I don't feel like I should overdrive it like I did with Johanna. Maybe Crocutan will see use someday, but I highly doubt it.
I'll cherish my memories of this time.
I start to disengage some blades that I'll likely never have a reasonable use for, as there is technically a limit to the number of blades you can carry at any given time, plus doing this gives us boosters to increase our odds of getting specific
Well, take care.
blades. Included in this list is the Bitball Kojiro we briefly used back in Chapter 2, and as sad as it is, I disengage him in the hopes that he finds a lesser driver someday who could use his talents more than we do. After I finish mourning, it's time for us to face another pain in the shoulder. This time, a big bird on Melnath's shoulder. I'm not even going to script to this fight, I'm just going to live commentate it, because what the actual fuck just happened? I also realize now at this point in recording, or in scripting, looking at my footage, everything that has happened so far took me nearly 2 hours to do in actual game time, so this episode might end up being a lot shorter than I thought it was, so maybe it's going to be longer than I thought it was, because I might add more later, who knows, we'll see. Anyway, the fight against Brent starts. He sees us from a long distance, but we were prepared, and he immediately starts with Feather Vein of Pain, but it's not that scary. Tori manages to take aggro off pretty quickly, so Rex doesn't get too low, but Feather Vein of Pain, obviously AoE still can hurt Rex quite a bit, but I'm not overly concerned about it at this moment because of our stats being so high and being 4 levels above them. I swap from Zenobia to Pyra because it helps a little bit with healing, and my main goal with Rex right now is to get up to a level 4 special, or at least level 3 if possible. Either one really works. His health is actually going down pretty fast this time around, which is good, but also means that it's just a little bit sooner that we get to the Don't Rogel. Or whatever it's called, I forget. Thankfully, Rex has Rolling Smash, which decreases the amount of aggro he has, or something. I don't actually know how the formula all works, but we managed to get up to a level 3 special, so we swap back to Zenobia in the hopes that we can get up her Affinity for the Affinity Max Attack Arts Core plus a level 4 special. My goal is to use Aqua here on Nia, which I can combo into a Tora Pandemic, which I can finish off with Zenobia as a win special with Final Disaster. I get to level 4 special and use Tora's level 3 special, so that way we can start with the Pandemic, and now we have a break going, and then a topple, and then a launch, and then I am smashing the A button to get off a Final Disaster. This is what's called a fusion combo, which I've gone over briefly in the past. Landing a fusion combo on a launch significantly increases the damage we deal, so we deal nearly 73,000 fucking damage. What the actual fuck is Xenoblade 2? What were they cooking? Obviously that's not enough to actually kill Brent though. I think he has like... I think Alfonso had like 220,000 health on normal, which is probably like 400,000 on... It's stupid. They give too much health. But we also do too much damage, so it balances out relatively well. Also eat your heart out, Axe haters, on Rex, because I could not have done that damage with any other class, probably. That's actually, no, that's not true at all. Also, if you'll notice, there's a dark element on Nia. Telos has salvaging mastery, so I actually had that equipped for while I was salvaging, and I completely forgot about that. So for this fight, Nia was using Telos, which means that we have the two worst axe users in the game using an axe to fight Sniping Brents, which is one of the worst unique monsters to fight on a new game. Anyway, we won with no problem at all, and I was just stunned for a second. I was still trying to process 73,000 damage. I was absolutely insane. After I finish being flashbanged by a big number, I head back into Toradroth and make a few extra arch cores. A Shadowblade Resist 1, an Outdoor Attack Up 2, the Jamming 2, and the Insect Hunter 2. Never hurts to have more options available for your party, though we already have more or less everything we'll need, though part of me wonders if I'm just a mite bit too attached to the fast blade switch on Ursula. We got another core crystal, so I pull yet again, but Shidora is unlikely to see much use, though thinking about it now in scripting, I may just give her a chance at one point. I give Zenobia the Affinity Max Attack and Outdoor Attack Up, which, yeah, the 70k damage I did against Brent was without these arch cores apparently, cause that's fine. I head back into Garfont, where Rex and Pyra are treating each other's wounds while Vandam watches in confusion. He approaches the two about why Pyra has wounds at all, and they explain the situation. For those who forgot, Pyra gave half of her life force to Rex, and now they're linked in the damage they take for reasons. Rex isn't immediately concerned, but Vandam says it's a huge problem, because if either of them die, so does the other. Rex brings up what Vandam told him about protecting Pyra, but Vandam says it isn't that easy. Rex is stubborn though, mentioning that he won't be dying until he reaches Elysium, which he's already fucked up once. Atkos arrives on the scene to spoil the party though, and he calls Nia a traitor almost immediately.
Traitor, traitor, traitor!
Arona, shut the fuck up, nobody likes you. Vandam asks just who these guys are, and we inform them that they're Torna, which he seems to know the name of. Atkos tells the crew he came to see the Aegis, possibly kidnap her, and informs Nia that Jin said yeah, just fucking kill her, I guess. Nia refuses to believe that, but as we know, it was a true thing that happened. Before it's fight time, Vandam gets noticeably angry, informing the group that Torna is a group that has a tendency to kill a large number of drivers, some of them even being part of the Garfont Mercs. Rumor has it their goal is to grab core crystals for who knows what purpose, and he has everyone evacuate the village so we can fight without holding back. Nia mentions that Abrona can manipulate the ether in the air and counter elements with opposing elements, and I promise that sounds cooler than it really is. Fight time per usual though, and the game finally gives us access to the wonderful mechanic known as chain attacks. We wait to use one though, as on Bringer Chaos, there's a very special quirk to chain attacks that we should talk about. First though, on the fight itself, Ankos, as you might expect, is a driver, which means the whole shebang about block rate and when a special's going on and yada yada. I'll probably stop mentioning that mechanic from now on. You get the idea. His first start is Flash of Steel, a single a fast single-targeted art that does little damage and inflicts knockback. Abrona's first special is Skewer, which is just an electric version of Feather Vein of Pain, and it's also a bit faster. It seems to do less damage though, but the move gets used quite a bit in its own right, so it's still a pain, not to mention the block rate it gives Akos. Akos' second art is Skull Smasher, which for this first instance we don't get to see it finish thanks to a lucky break by Nia, but it inflicts both break and topple to a single target when it goes off in full. It generally happens pretty fast too, so calling my luck there good is an understatement. A couple cycles of that later, and Akos uses his third art, Shadow Cut. This is a fast, potentially AoE move? I don't know, it doesn't do much, so who really cares? A couple more flashes and skewers later, and Akos uses the most problematic art of the fight. Checkmate inflicts all drivers with the Shackle Driver debuff, which prevents the driver from doing anything. This sounds broken, but technically speaking, blades still function, so if any have system reset for a blade art, they have a chance to remove the debuff early, which is super helpful. For our team, the only driver with that available though is Nia, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's better than nobody at all, especially since she's our medic. She takes a short nap for a bit anyway, by which I mean she got toppled, and I run around like a chicken with its head cut off for a little bit while waiting for the debuff to wear off. After it does, I activate the chain attack, but instead of telling you how it works, I'm going to instead tell you that shortly after the chain attack, I lost the fight. Hooray! Before re-attempting the fight, I decide to go ahead and face off against Implacable Dylan, I don't know how to say their enemy type, the Reek unique monster we saw when we first got to Araya. Before we do though, I want to clear out the Doryu Reeks here, as I want this space to fight against Dylan, and more enemies is mainly just a pain to deal with, despite it playing into one of Zenobia's skills. I won't bore you with the fights to clear them out, but I will show off this level 4 special I do with Zenobia that did 19,000 damage. Mainly just to set a precedent for what's about to happen. I attempt to lure Dylan out of the little cave he's in, but for some reason he has the range of an ancient machine when I do this, and he manages to get off several attacks against Wretch before even starting to approach us. When he does get to us, Wretch just dies, but we had party gauge available from the previous fights, so he gets revived, and it's like nothing really happened. Totally. Getting into Dylan and Reeks in general, their first art is Delve, a single target multi-hit attack with decent damage, and it's this enemy's spam art. His second art is Pitfall, which grants Dylan perfect evasion, and at the end of the art does an AoE attack that topples anyone it hits. Dangerous, especially since Delve I believe does increased damage to toppled enemies, but the topple itself is more of a problem than the extra damage. His third art is Blood Anger, which is an AoE art, probably, that also causes Dylan to inflict topple on himself. This is a weird mechanic, but one that we can easily take advantage of, as Nia swaps to Ursula and launches Dylan, while I go for a level 3 special to get off a Final Disaster launch. That does 63,000 damage! Good freaking lord, Zenobia hits hard, which yes, this is technically less than we did to Dylan, to against Brent, but you also have to realize that was a level 4 special against an enemy that was 4 levels below us, while this is a level 3 special against an enemy that is 1 level above us. I think, maybe, I don't know. We might be. I can't actually see this at this point, because my audio is way back at, like, the point where we were entering to the you know what, whatever. We were entering the ship. That's all you need to know. That's all there really is to talk about when it comes to what he can do to us, but let's talk about what we can do to him. Essentially our strategy, as this is probably the most insightful fight we've had so far. As in the one with the most specific strategy so far. Anyway, the general plan is fairly simple, as I want to get off as many Final Disaster launches as possible, which can be done either through the proper break topple launch strategy, or timing a launch to hit the Blood Anchor art. The problem with the latter strategy is that for Axe Rex, this straight up requires you to preemptively start the launch art, as it's too slow to inflict launch before the topple wears off, due to it having a special duration compared to a topple that we inflict. There's probably some way to count like how many delves get used or whatever, but I mostly just play it by instinct. Do I think it's coming? If no, consider launching art anyway. If yes, do the launch art. Doing things in this way lends us to get another Final Disaster launch, this time doing 73,000 damage, which enrages Dylan. understandably. Something to note about this damage number though is that when you do a full blade combo, it inflicts an orb onto an enemy and that enemy now takes reduced damage from whatever element orb is on the enemy. For example, in our case, Final Disaster sends up a wind orb, so Dylan is taking, I believe, 25% less damage from wind element attacks, which means that when we go for that second Final Disaster, the damage we see was originally 25% stronger than what we see. So that should give you an idea of how much Zenobia would have done without that orb up, nearly 100,000 damage. And it's only chapter freaking 3. What? Back to the fight, being enraged, he did do a rage strike, but it was actually a delve that did no damage, though took away a little party gauge. I won't bother talking about the rest of this fight, because spoiler alert, we lose right before we manage to take him down. I probably could have done one or two things differently, or better to get the win, but it was my first attempt, so I wasn't expecting it to go even this well. Also, because looking at my script, there was no good reason for me to make it this long. Probably a typical filler anime episode, really, which now looking at the timer that it's been taking me to do this, to record the script, yeah, we're not doing more than I was initially intending to. I beat up the Ricks again, and then lure Dylan again as well. I take slightly less damage before battle positions are gotten to, and rather than go through the entire fight, I'll just show off a couple key moments. Nothing actually really changed about this fight or my strategy, I just played a little better. We have yet another common core crystal, and up to this point, I've done a lot of pulling, but not a lot of rare blading.
Warriors, at your service. I bet you can't keep up with me. Going fast sure makes me super hungry. I will eat everything that All Rest has to offer.
From what I can tell, Boreas here is my very first pity blade of the game. Excuse me again. Every core you open grants a designated number of pity points, 5 for common, 25 for rares, and 50 for the elusive legendary core crystal. At 100 pity points, you are guaranteed one of 3 specific rare blades that depends on what group you were put in for that specific file. For me, Boreas as a pity blade would put me in either group 1 or group 2. That said, even if you hit 100 pity points, I don't think you are guaranteed a pity blade specifically. The game first checks to see if you would obtain a rare blade normally, and if not, then the pity system kicks in and gives you a pity blade. At least that's how I think that's the way it works. As a blade, Boreas is very much the jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none type of character, filling every niche that you could possibly hope for, just not as well as some other characters. Even doing enough damage for what he is, being a bitball. His defenses are both 20%, which is very well balanced. He has a skill that increases evasion, another skill that effectively acts like a high block rate without reducing damage on top of that, and his level 3 special is just an absurdly good AoE heal on hit art, and he has a skill that heals the entire team when beating an enemy. He's what I would consider the most reliably mediocre blade. Far from bad, but not OP, just solid all around without breaking the meta entirely. Which means he's barely all that helpful on Bringer of Chaos. Especially on Wretch, who doesn't take advantage of him nearly as well as, say, Nia could, just due to him having a worse art kit than most bitballers. I give him an Amethyst chip, which increases Wretch luck by 50, and equip him just for the hell of it. That was a mistake, so after doing a few things I'll skip over that don't matter, I head back to Garfont with Zenobia equipped and Tora instead of Vandam. Something that I did not mention is that I actually reset after losing the Akos fight so I could get the chance to take advantage of the tutorial again. I don't think it's necessary to win, but it allows me to more easily talk about chain attacks and how they function. I've gone over everything about the fight itself, so let's talk chains. Remember those element orbs I talked about earlier? Inflicting an enemy with multiple of those is key to taking advantage of chain attacks, and it just so happens that this tutorial starts you with a water element orb. I inflict a final disaster combo prior to doing the chain attack, so I have a wind element as well. Chain attacks use blade specials, starting at the first level, and every time you select a special, it inflicts a little bit of damage on an orb. Using an element's weakness will greatly damage an orb, and some blades are even capable of destroying an opposing element orb in one hit if you have the right skill. It takes 3 hits for normal damage to destroy an orb, 2 hits if one was weakness. If I recall correctly, an opposing element will always attempt to damage an orb that it is strong against, which can be good or bad depending on your setup. In this case, I can easily use Pyra to damage the water orb for big damage, and then break it with Poppy. Breaking an orb will continue the chain attack to the next round and increase the damage ratio of the chain attack, which is something else I need to mention. Due to a programming error, a bug exists on Bringer of Chaos and some custom difficulty settings that sets the damage ratio of a chain attack to a flat 100%. Rather than starting 150%, it should have been on Bringer of Chaos otherwise. But this only ever happens when someone cancels an attack in a fight, whether it be player-controlled or AI, which, frankly put, is nigh impossible to prevent happening. For right now, that difference isn't really the most problematic thing, but that bug makes an otherwise extremely broken accessory completely worthless. And later on, 50% damage can actually be quite a bit to be missing out on. Something to note as well is that on easy and even normal, I believe chain attacks will freeze any driver combos in their place, though due to the way launch works, it doesn't actually stay paused, but on Bringer of Chaos, even topple won't be frozen. Such that we do a bit less damage, but not a huge deal overall, although with the bug that does kind of turn into a huge deal. Whenever you break an orb and do another round of chain attacks, if you successfully do the massive QTE, or quick time event, your specials will now all be at level 2, and if you go to a third round, they become level 3. You can use whichever blade you want as long as they are actively engaged. However, for some reason or another, the last member of your party will not be allowed to use the same blade twice in a row from what I can tell. Or something like that anyway. So I highly recommend not having Tora in the third position, as that can slightly nerf chain attack damage potential. I should also note that specials and chain attacks will not go above level 3, but you can still have the rounds continue with level 3 specials multiple times. There's one more mechanic with chain attacks I'll get into eventually, but right now there is no way in hell we'd be able to pull it off. We finish Ankos off right after the chain attack, and that's the fight done.
Such an honor.
He's fine, of course, though, because we aren't allowed to truly win any fights yet quite in the story, and not only that, but he even has the upper hand, injuring Pyra and noticing that Rex is taking the same damage. He calls Pyra a mere mortal, knowing that she'll succumb to her injuries if he keeps attacking, but before he can do a finishing blow, Vandam finally steps in to keep her safe. Vandam sends a small twister at Ankos that does more or less nothing, but he passes his weapons to Rock, who starts up a much larger cyclone that overwhelms Ankos and blows away Abrona, sort of. Ankos tried to go for a direct attack, but Jormark knocks him away now that Abrona isn't able to control the ether in the air. Ankos is salty that he's not absolutely destroying everyone, so he runs away. The group just sort of watches until Pyra passes out due to her ouchies. Pyra is taken to the Garfont Inn for resting, and Rex tells Vandam that she should be fine and that it's not too bad. Rex is worried if he used too much power, but Vandam turns his attention elsewhere. He asks Rex what he thinks the difference between Vandam and Ankos is, with Rex replying that Vandam is good and Ankos bad. Vandam, however, says that they aren't so different. He and the Garfont mercs think they're fighting for justice, but in reality, there's no such thing as a just fight. Justice is simply an excuse to fight, and war is simply war. As long as you stand up for yourself, people will want to fight you, and sooner or later you end up in a war of some kind. Everyone has their own fights, including Ankos. Maybe he's hurting other people, but what Ankos is doing is something he likely believes is his own justice. It ain't good, but there's no real good or bad in war. It's all about power. Power that can change depending on the heart of the wielder. If someone doesn't use their power out of fear, then they'll never win their wars. Nobody knows for sure who's right or wrong, so all you can do is protect what you find important. Rex understands for the most part. He just needs to determine what his own war is. You know, a lot of the standard anime, it's all about the heart of the wielder type of stuff. A lot of people will probably find it a little bit cringe, but I mean, it's technically true. Sometime later, Pyra wakes up feeling a bit better, however Nia has something she wants to talk about. She wants Rex to come with her to tell Vandam about her past with Torna, and she would have gone to do it alone, but she finds Vandam to be just a little bit scary. Understandable given his size, strength, and position as a merc. Rex agrees to go, and we're given a small opportunity to do that. I put Nia into the lead and swap out Zenobia for Kohana and Rex, since Kohana and AI will be a little more reliable than Axe Rex. We walk over to the training grounds where Vandam is, and Nia starts by thanking Vandam for saving their lives. She's still a bit nervous, but before she can get out a full thought, Vandam interrupts her, saying that as a mercenary, you meet all kinds of people. Money, family, country, and so on. There is an endless number of reasons that people might fight, like fighting for a special woman. He pokes a bit of fun at Rex and Pyra before getting back to the point. What matters is that Nia is with Rex and Pyra right now, nothing else. Vandam turns his attention to Rex and asks him about the Elysium goal, and Rex confirms it's their goal, but they can't get to the tree with Ophion in the way. Vandam mentions someone he knows at the Orion capital might know how to get to Elysium, and that he could introduce us since he has business in the capital anyway. Rex thanks him, but Vandam says it's probably destiny or something, so he shouldn't worry about it. He says we should prepare and meet him by the village entrance. And there's only one way I know how to prepare. Also, side note, when recording, I can't hear any game audio, so I had to do my best to guess when the characters finish their dialogue. I'll edit out any substantial gaps, and I apologize now for any dialogue cut short. I am laying in bed editing this at 5 in the morning, and I am so sorry.
I made tea for everyone. Help yourselves.
Oh, no. Pyra getting it completely wrong.
Oh? Would you rather have something else, Tora?
Oh, no, that's not it. Tora just think that if Pyra going to do maid job, Pyra should be more... matey.
Matey?
Tora, Pyra was kind enough to make tea. Can't you just be bloody grateful?
Oh, Tora, no, that, but also strive for perfection is important goal. Tora feel very most important thing for maid is, knock on word is, blushy crushy. Blushy crushy. Blushy crushy. Pyra's still quite lacking in that area.
I'm lacking? But what on all rest is blushy crushy? Blushy crushy. Blushy crushy.
What every man looking for. If Pyra master art of blushy crushy, then all men fall at Pyra's feet.
All men? Really?
Yes. It is known fact.
Listen, Pyra, there's no point paying attention to this little twerp.
But
Is Pyra interested in essence of maidiness?
if you think Rex would like that.
Rex is boy, so he definitely not immune to the charms of blushy crushy. Blushy crushy. Blushy crushy. It definitely worth Pyra's time to learn essence of maidiness.
I see. Okay, I'm ready. Tor, tell me what to do.
Pyra?
Tora will now introduce assistant to help teach essence of maidiness.
How may I be of service, Mr. Rex, sir?
Poppy?
What is this, Tora? Some kind of malfunction?
Do not worry. This just Rex-focused blushy, crushy maximization mode. Have a good day salvaging, Mr. Rex, sir.
Mr. Rex. Sir.
So, this is Blushy Crushy?
Okay, Pyra, copy what Poppy say.
Mr. Rex, sir, Poppy is blushy crushy just for you.
Mr. Rex, sir, Pyra is Blushy Crushy.
Blushy crushy, blushy crushy.
Just for you?
No. Rex will never fall at Pyra's feet with such low level of blushy crushy.
Blushy crushy, blushy crushy.
Try again, from top.
Mr. Rex, sir, Pyra is Blushy Crushy. Just for you.
Not there yet.
I give up. I can't watch this anymore.
I think just about everyone agrees with you. Anyway, let's get the hell out of here. Fandom tells you and Zuo to take care of the village while we're gone, and he seems to be in a particularly good mood for some weird reason. Immediately outside the village seems to be some poorly hidden suspicious individuals though, but nobody notices them because why in the world would they be there? That would be silly and weird and suspicious of them. Anyway, the game cuts away to Jin of all people, who happens to be smack dab in the middle of massacring a Titan battleship for the hell of it. And by hell of it, I mean to probably secure a large quantity of core crystals that they have on board. Fun fact, this attack is actually a challenge mode battle that you can do starting in Chapter 4, though as this is a no DLC run, we won't be doing it. Back to our crew, I swap Rex out for Vandam because I really just want to do one story fight with Vandam in the lead just to make myself feel better about not using him much at all otherwise, giving him an eye patch to increase his damage slightly whenever I cancel. I should mention that I got this eye patch when roaming around Gormott in between episodes. It's from a chest near the Lido Oasis area. Anyway, I grab Vandam's veteran skill because I hate myself and hate making my life easier by keeping the cancel timing simpler, and we move onward towards our next destination, which just so happens to be the Cobalt Cliffs that Ursula told us about in my last episode. Before we can actually do the heart-to-heart though, it's cutscene time once more.
Looks like all the chat about the Aegis was true.
Who are you?
That's a heavy burden you have there. Sure you're up to it, Pipsqueak? See sense, step aside and let the big boys take charge. Come on, yield the merchandise.
Huh? What? Vandam. Do you know this guy?
Never seen him in my life. Bah!
Wait. Are you...
You really are a bunch of rinky-dink, bogus, stupid, no-mark drivers, aren't you? Behold the mighty Zeke von Gembu, bringer of chaos! Mostly known as Zeke, and often addressed as the Zekenator! Behold my blade, Pandoria! And this is my sword, the Purple Lightning Dream Smasher! If you want a taste, come and get it!
We're good.
Good? No? Wait! Wait, you barbarians!
This guy. I'm tired of him already.
Gah. You think you lowlives can lick the three of us?
3 of you? I count 2. Lost someone?
Huh? Oh, get a load of this. Our beloved mascot, Tartars, reveal yourself. Huh? Tartars? 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 Where are you, boy? Tartars!
Oh. Hello, little guy. How are you? What are you doing out here all alone?
Turtles! Handling a man's turtle.
You could have just grabbed Pyra there. Why did he go for his turtle instead?
What an idiot.
Listen, whatever. She'll be mine soon enough. Got a problem with that? Then come at me! And don't hold back!
What? Is this guy for real?
As big of a joke as Zeke is, his fight is anything but, especially on Bringer of Chaos. He immediately opens up with his first art, Stratospheric Thunder, which is just a standard attack and the one he'll be using the most. Shortly after, we have Pandoria's first special, Lightning Force, which is the same deal, but a little bit stronger. They don't do a ton of damage on their own, but they get used quite a bit and are nothing to sneeze at. But they obviously aren't everything he's going to have to offer. Pandoria's level 2 special is Electric Circus, which is really just their entire dynamic as a whole. This is a multi-hit special that is AoE, but the AoE seems to be either small or maybe we just had damage barriers up, I just don't know. And it hurts a little bit more than the first two attacks that we were shown. Zeke's second art is Dynamic Spark Sword, which is a 3-hit attack that inflicts knockback on all hits. A bit annoying, but not all that strong. Despite all that, Tora is fairly low before we're shown something brand spanking new. Zeke and Pandoria here have a level 4 special they can use. It takes a while to go off, but when it does, oh my holy hell does it hurt. Why? Thankfully it's only single target, so the only person who had the displeasure of being absolutely devastated into oblivion was Vandam. Thankfully we just barely had enough party gauge so he gets revived. As far as I can tell, this is everything that Zeke has to offer as an enemy at this point in time, so I'll be frank about things. I try my absolute hardest, and I think I do relatively well, but I end up losing this fight as Nia for some reason does not have the ability to keep Tora moving and grooving, nor does she have the ability to keep herself alive when he falls. Like a lot of fights in this episode though, we do get fairly close, though I'm not sure if I could have really played much better aside from trying to evade the level 4 special. Before we made some adjustments to the party though, take a look at this. Yep, the devs made sure to have plenty of fun with Zeke, and I'm all for it. Usually. I had a Naban doll on Tora in case he went down first, but Vandam had that displeasure, so I replaced it with an infantry vest so he's just a tad bit tankier. I take a look at Poppy Swap as well, temporarily exchanging the System Reset Arch card with Accuracy up 3, and then replacing the Affinity Extend Scale Ram with a Damage Shield Scale Ram, which all put together should make Tora and Poppy a lot more reliable in this fight. After doing all that, I re-enter the fight, and to make a long story short, for some reason he just straight up never uses his level 4 special. I have no idea why this went that way, and my only guess is that I somehow skipped the trigger for it by using my own level 4 special right before he would use his, and I somehow skipped the trigger for it to activate. I have no idea, but what I can say is that I won with absolutely no troubles whatsoever this attempt. Awesome.
Good try. Not bad. But wipe yourselves down and get ready for my super ultra mega move!
We're waiting with bated breath for your super duper whatever.
You asked for it! Bringer of Chaos! Ultimate Lightning Fury Slash!
Whoa. What just happened? They...
What an idiot.
Don't see that every day.
Come on. That's enough nonsense.
Indeed.
But we aren't quite done here, as if you remember, this is the place where Ursula wanted us to go, and there's a heart-to-heart here. I'll leave you with this for the end of the episode.
And we're here. This is the place you met, right, Ursula?
That's right.
Scenery indeed very nice. But did Ursula want to see something particular?
Yes. That.
Red tree thing?
Yes, it's a saffronia tree. There's an old nursery rhyme about this tree. I always loved it.
Oh, yeah? I guess songs are your kind of thing.
I guess. It's something I'm drawn to.
That little bit strange. Tora never hear Ursula sing. Ursula only listen to music.
Well, I like to sing, certainly. But I get nervous around people.
Ursula really very shy person, huh? Feels eyes of spectators on.
Sorry.
Do you play any instruments?
Tora bet Ursula can play every instrument.
I'm not very good, but I can play a few.
More than one? Wow! Which is best instrument?
Maybe the organ? I also quite like the lute.
Actually, Tora can play whisper chorder. Not on children forced to play from age of about 5 years.
Oh, I'd love to hear you play sometime.
Oh, Tora and Ursula should make duet.
I'd like that.
Actually, Poppy also can blow mean trumpet. Fan bass lungs capable of incredible sustain.
That's amazing.
Is it just me, or has she forgotten I'm even here? As she seems to be having a great time. Maybe one day she'll be able to have fun talking about music with the whole gang.